Mm-hmm.
So I've been wanting to do this episode for a while, which is I was not familiar with your game. I owe you an apology draft.
Yes.
Because there are a few players that have been important to YKB lore that are either having breakout seasons or bounce back seasons, and players that we have maybe trashed on harsh or too harsh. We've been too harsh on these players in the past. And this is our chance to apologize to them for maybe being a little bit too harsh about them and their game. So I could go first. You could go first. We did the wash draft last week. We went back and forth. Yeah. I'm down for whatever. I have a whole list of players here. I have a bunch of guys that I was not familiar with their game. So if you would like to start first, I'm giving you the floor. I'll also take the first pick if you would like.
You go first because I'm still kind of deciding between some guys, and I think you'll give me some structure if you
let's just give the people what they want.
Okay. If this is what I think, I'm glad you're doing it instead of me.
Cade Cunningham, come on down.
Okay, yeah, that's what I
thought. Everyone said that I should force your hand and make you pick it, but
I would not. I would not. Keep going.
Just like we did on the Patreon episode last week, I knew you were never going to admit that Damian Lillard is not washed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Cade's not good. So yeah.
So
I'll let you make the argument that I don't believe in.
Okay.
Okay.
So keep in mind, I've admitted more than you, I would say, that I think that Cade could be an all-star level player.
For sure, yes.
I think that he is someone who got overhyped as a prospect, was built up to be something that he was not. I mean, dating back to when he was listed at 6'8", and we were told he was like a hyper athlete and a very clear top 5 future top 5 player.
Yeah.
Those were the things that I was originally pushing back against. Over time, I perhaps went too far in the other direction in terms of my Cade skepticism. Now, the thing about Cade this season is that a lot of the same warts were there early in the season. I still think one of the major warts that he has is the turnover problem. I don't think that it is something, and the two flaws that I still think have remained in his game that he has not beat the allegations with are the turnover issues, and more importantly, the late game performance, where when you're in a close game, you're running your offense through him. He can be turnover prone. He can take bad shots, all that stuff. Everything else about his game, though, the shooting that I was very skeptical of, the 3-point shooting, which, it didn't really make sense that he wasn't a good 3-point shooter. It really made no sense in my mind that this guy's who's a really good mid-range shooter, really good free throw shooter, has good touch in general, could not shoot threes. Well, this season it's starting to come around a lot more. His 3-point shooting on good volume, he's at like 37 to 39%. He's kind of swayed back and forth between those averages, and more recently has been as efficient as he's ever been since he's come back from his latest injury in terms of shooting, in terms of 3-point shooting in general. On the season, he's actually up to 39% from 3, and he is shooting about 7 threes per game. So 6.4 to be exact. So right now, a lot of this just kind of comes back to, the fact that the 3-point shooting has come around, and the defense, which I thought looked bad last year. We talked about the fact that he gained weight in order to kind of scale up defensively so that he could guard wings and forwards. He put on some muscle, and that made him a little bit slower footed and all this stuff. But this year, I mean, just watching some of the games, his team defense is awesome. He's been really good around the basket and the paint, which is something that was really, when he was coming out, was something that was highly praised about his defense in general. And that's something that's really translated this year for a team that, once again, like, I still think Detroit's roster sucks. I still think that they really don't have the talent that most other young stars have around them when they're developing. And this is the first year where, between the shot making from mid-range, the 3-point shooting coming around, the defense being better, you can live with the fact that he's not a great finisher. He's not someone who gets to the line a ton, and he is someone who turns the ball over. I think that now we're at the point. If people had been saying this last year, basically about the surrounding cast, what they were saying last year was definitely true to an extent. But I think if you watch the games, you would realize that a lot of it was self-inflicted Cade's errors. Yeah. I think this year, if you were to give him a better supporting cast, like even better shooting, even better defenders, that you could get Cade to be a prolific hub of an offense. I don't think that you're going to ever get him to be like I don't think you're ever going to have like a top 5 offense with him necessarily, but I think he's a guy that could have you in the top 10 offense range and not take much off the table defensively. I mean, the potential assists are through the roof with him through this year. I know he has the ball a ton, like his usage rate is very high, but his potential assists are like top 5 in the league right now. He's near the top of the league, averaging 9 assists per game, and it's not like he has the most talent in the world around him. So once again, I think that if Cade made the All-Star team this year, I wouldn't have a problem with it. And I think that if you had told me this a year ago, I would have been pretty surprised. But I think that where he's at now is he's starting to catch up to his reputation at least a little bit in my mind.
Yeah, I would say he's definitely improved like this year. It definitely shown more of a trajectory where some of the like all NBA stuff that was being said seems like a little bit less ridiculous than it was like last year. I still feel pretty confident he's going to be a 3 or less All-Star game guy in his career. Because I think that what it's going to take is a weak All-Star year, which is what's happening in the East right now. So like he better make it this year is what I think, because I think this is going to be about as easy as it gets. In terms of making the East as a guard going forward. Like the league is just going to continue to get more talented around him. My continued critique of Cade is because I think everything you just said is true, especially about like creation, like being a hub. But the thing is, how much better are you as a creation hub than the other 30 guys who are also a good creation? Like, how much better are you than average? And that is my concern with Cade, is I don't think he can be like a top 15 creator. Like what you're describing, that environment, is what every creator wants. Like Jason Tatum is an elite creator in that environment. The Peyton Pritchard is an elite creator in the Celtics environment. You know, like it's. I think
not sure I follow that one.
Well, I just mean that like everyone, like if his teammates were really fucking good, like he'd have a ton of assists. All right. Awesome. Yeah, that's a lot of guys. Like, I
mean, he averages 9 assists a game. He's top 5 in the NBA despite having I would say a subpar supporting cast.
Sure, whatever. He also has an insane usage, though. Russell Westbrook had 9 assists a game, like in the year he won MVP. Like, and do we think Russ is like an elite creator?
I mean, prime Russell Westbrook was certainly someone you could build around. I don't really know if you want to say that you could build a top whatever. I don't even remember how high they ranked in offense during the MVP Russ season, to be completely honest with you.
I just mean like what, like, sorry, creators at all. Is he like, was he an elite passer? Was like Russell Westbrook this insane like hub passer?
He was a very good passer.
No,
that was like his best skill. What are you talking about?
He was like a mid-range, his best skill.
And his passing was very good, and his mid-range game was good, and his getting to the rim.
His mid-range was fine. He was an athlete first and foremost, and he was just an insane physical force that like couldn't be stopped going to the rim. I don't know.
Continue.
I'm skeptical on all of this. I'm getting in the weeds. You're all. I'm getting my ass beat in the comments, but
okay. Here's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I know on-off stuff isn't always the perfect science for sure, but last year I thought that when you watched Detroit, Cade's style would sometimes bog down a team that was bad offensively already, and in order to get to a level of competence offensively, they needed to run a lot. They needed to do some things that I felt like you could make the argument that he might have been holding them back from, despite having a lack of talent. This year, I think when you look at the on-offs, like their offense is way better when he's on the court. It's still not elite, It's like they have 114 offensive rating when he's on the court. That's
Sure.
pretty good. Like that's like
that's fine.
Like around, I think that's around league average this year.
Yeah, it's a little under, but about league average. Like
but when he's off the court, they have a 107, which is one of the worst offenses in the league.
Yep.
And once again, I don't think Cade is ever going to be an elite defender, but I think he can be part of a really good defense. And I think that is something that you want to look at when you're looking at these hub type creators, is like, can we get to a level where I think some of the comps that have been thrown around for him are like, maybe not quite on the same level as last year's Halliburton, maybe 2 years ago Halliburton, maybe a Trae Young type, where, you, in terms of offensive engine and building around that guy, can he get to the point where he can make Detroit into a top 10 offense and then make them a competent team defensively, unlike those guys? I think that it's possible. I think that if you are to continue to put the right pieces around Cade, he might be a guy that is worth building around. Now, sure, if you want to argue that he's not Jokic or Giannis or one of the higher level, even Luka, like, he's not one of the guys that, is a surefire number one championship option. Totally understand that. I think that most guys aren't that, though. And I think that if we divorce ourselves from the pre-draft mindset about Cade, Chuck made this argument pre-draft, which was, he argued Mobley over Cade for this exact reason. And his exact reasoning was, I have more faith that I can build a team, I can build a really elite defense around Mobley, that he can be a part of a good offense. And I actually think with the level of high level creators that are near championship or championship level, that Cade might struggle to reach those levels due to, the athleticism questions, the finishing around the rim questions that we have now. But I do think that he can reach a level of all-star, all-NBA-ish creator. And I think that is something that a year ago I felt like he was really far away from, and I felt like everyone was projecting these things onto him due to Detroit's lack of putting a good team around him. And now you're starting to see that they have a little bit of competency. I mean, like, still the second best player on that team is like Jaden Ivey. Like, I don't even know where that team is. Not good is what I'm trying to get at. And he's at least established a level of competency to make them a play-in level team. And I think that shows you that as he gets older, he's still only 23. I at least have to give him props for that. And I think that if we're talking about all-star, all-NBA, all Detroit wants is just a competitive team. Like that.
Yeah, sure.
Detroit would kill to be the 8 seed and get smoked in the first round this year.
And by the way, I think they're still on that trajectory as they continue to add talent. I'm just saying, speaking about Cade personally as this central hub, if you go through point guards in the NBA, is he going to be a better creator than Jalen Brunson, for example? Is he going to be better than De'Aaron Fox? Is he going to be better than Darius Garland? There's a lot of guys who are
I think he'll be on around that level. Maybe Brunson's towards the top of that group. Yeah. But also, I think New York has done a really good job of building around his strengths. Sure. And I think that's something that Detroit can at least look forward to. As opposed to a year ago, I would have been like, damn, do they have to blow this thing up?
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand your point. I just more mean when we're talking about the idea of Cade, personally, I still don't feel like this season has changed my idea of who Cade is anymore. I just very strongly push back on the idea of him as an all NBA level guy, because the improvement would need to be so massive, and there's so many guys that he has to get by. Donovan Mitchell's ahead of him.
There's a lot of good guards
that are coming ahead of him. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's just what people forget is they look at Cade, they see, okay, 29 point per game score. The stats are good. He's a big guy, so he's not going to kill you on defense the way some of these other guards are, Garland or, for example, Maxey, or some of these guys that are kind of contemporaries. But at the same time, there's just a long list of guys. Who knows if LaMelo Ball stays healthy? I'm sorry, LaMelo's ahead of him if he stays healthy, I think. And just in terms of as a creation hub. So you know,
I think he could reach those levels is my point. It's not to say that this is like, everything you've ever learned about Cade Cunningham is wrong. It's just to say he's having a good season.
He is having a good
I've probably unfairly trashed him a lot, to be clear. And I think
totally
that was more of the ball draft nerd culture war thing going on that we had here for a little bit.
Culture war.
But we're now at a point where I think that Cade is having a good season that should be recognized. And I mean, honestly, I think a good comp for him, not quite 1-for-1. There's no 1-for-1 comp for Cade, I don't think. But I honestly think a DeMar DeRozan-ish level player, maybe with slightly better passing and defense. And if that's the case, DeMar gets the line more. He's a better finisher. Kind of outwards DeMar DeRozan, essentially, like mid-range 3-point shooting, defense, all competent. And once again, that makes it easier to build around a player like that and make them part of a winning team. Now, the thing that I do question is, how does Detroit get there? Because I think most of their young guys they're not no-hopers by any means. But I think a lot of their young guys are weird fitting on this team.
Yeah.
And they're going to be pretty good this year. Like, we've joked about, like, what if Detroit loses? Like, what if Detroit, that pick that I think Minnesota owns now, if I remember correctly, it was traded in the Karl-Anthony Towns trade.
Yeah.
That's a Detroit pick.
Yeah.
What if they're too good now and they lose their own first round pick? Like, my question more so from this point on is, how does Detroit get more talent in the door? Because I like the Ivy Cade fit in general. Like, I actually have been higher on that fit than I think most people.
No, definitely. Yeah. That's the thing that I've changed the most on this year, I would say, is like Ivy. I think that can work now, where I used to think you were definitely trading one of them.
Yeah. And, Ivy's going to be a guy that a year from now, they're going to have to make a decision on whether they want to pay him. He's been very up and down. He's having a decent season for, a guy who's in his third year and is kind of coming off of, what we said last year about the coach hating him and kind of the organization seemingly being down on him in general. But yeah, it's top 15 protected this year. So they'll probably have their pick this year. But my point is that I think that they need to hit that pick, because I think that you're now running out of options. Like, you already maxed Cade, you made that decision. And I think that decision for Detroit specifically will be fine. I think that, like, the way that Asar obviously had off the court health issues, they were banking, I think, a lot on him becoming a part of a key piece on this team. He might be able to get there for sure. Holland, I mean, once again, I liked Holland in the draft. He can't shoot for shit. And, like, if he can't shoot, he's just not an NBA player. Like, that's just kind of how these things work. So I'm a little bit lower on Jaren. I know you like Jaren. We'll see what this core becomes. But I think that the bigger question for me becomes, how do you get the talent in the door and how do you build around Cade? Because I would probably look, he's not Luka, he's not Harden, he's not that level of player, but I would kind of build around him similarly, I think, just in terms of putting play finishers, maybe one extra creator, whether, when it was Harden, it was Chris Paul, when it was Luka, it's Kyrie, play finisher types that are pretty good defensively in order to make up for, I wouldn't necessarily play him in, like, the exact heliocentric style all the time. But I think the thing about Cade's improved shooting and willingness to play off the ball is that he can be part of the system as well. Like, he doesn't have to be the system itself.
I think that they've been going in the wrong direction. Like, I think this is kind of what you're saying. Like, because I don't think heliocentrism works for Cade at all, and that's part of the reason he's so bad in endgame like scenarios, is because when he sees double teams and some of this stuff, he's like not a good decision maker, and the handle is too tight. But I like him a lot more as like a Steph Curry, like off movement, like kind of secondary creator, like guy who's like coming off like a pin down, and you can make a quick read on some of that. Like, SH loves that one.
I just like the extremes that you go with in this conversation. Steph Curry off the ball. I mean, there's only one Steph Curry.
No, there's only one Steph Curry, obviously. I'm just saying, like, but that type of point guard, you know what I'm saying, where you're not someone who's pounding the fucking air out of the ball. Like, and I think that has very much been the Cade Cunningham experience for pretty much his entire time in Detroit. Is I want him to move off the ball and make very like quick decisions, maybe get him into secondary actions. Maybe Cade isn't the one bringing it up the floor. Honestly, I think they should have Ivy bring it up the floor more and kind of hit Cade on some sort of like secondary action, have somebody screen the screener or do something like that for him. So you're getting Cade the ball with an advantage and he can drive and make a read on the go or shoot or whatever the case may be.
I feel like they've made a concerted effort to do that, honestly. And honestly, I think that the fact that he is the team's best passer, in some situations, they just need him to be a hub. And once again, maybe he's not that, like I said, I don't think that heliocentric offense works unless you're elite at like three different, like it's literally like three players in the NBA. Like it's like Luka, Harden, and Jokic. Like, and there's really no way to build any sort of, and I guess if you want to go like a more diet version of this, like Trae Young, but like even Trae
that doesn't really work.
But Trae's had to adapt his game too. And like once again, if you have like, I think Detroit is happy to have this kind of offensive engine type guy that doesn't necessarily need to be on the ball all the time running 100 pick and rolls a game, but can be an effective enough creator with the ball, without the ball. And once again, another team that's kind of built similarly to those Harden and Luka teams is what Atlanta has done with Trae Young, where like they're putting a ton of defensive talent around him, good infrastructure, and a lot of play finisher types. And then also just connective pieces in general. So we'll see. I mean, I'm very interested to see where they go from here as a team. Do you think they make a trade like at the deadline to kind of push this timeline up a little bit? Like if they're within a shot of the 8 seed, let's say, and they can make the play-in and they can make the 7 or 8 seed, do you think Detroit is a team that should be pushing in? I wouldn't push in future draft capital. I think if I'm them, I'm probably staying away from trading any picks just until I kind of figure out what this team is. But I would be interested to see if it's like a prospect for prospect swap type thing, where it's like maybe this guy doesn't work great on our team, but he could help another team, and we're going to further this build around whichever guys we pick, whether that's Cade and Ivy or Cade and Jaren or whoever.
Well, I mean, I think you have two very similar players in Ron Holland and Asar Thompson, and two guys who could have value in the right context, but both of them are completely theoretical. Both of them could end up being quite bad or could end up being like quite good. So I think that like if you're gonna, that's like the most logical, like that's where you're gonna get the most value, is trading one of those two guys early. Now you risk looking very dumb if like one of them pans out or if they like suddenly learn how to shoot. But if neither of those guys are able to shoot, which is kind of what it looks like right now, then I'm
actually kind of surprised to see what. Oh, he's only taken 9. I was like, I literally just looked up Asar's 3-point shooting stats because I was like, Asar's shooting 33% from 3. He's shooting 3 of 9 on the season. So
that's
not exactly high volume.
No. But I think a lot of teams would look at Asar or Ron Holland and be like, yeah, there's something there, and like in our like context, we can make that work. And here's starter A. I mean, I think if it's not a trade like that where you're not trading out young guys, then you're looking at something like a Kevin Herter challenge trade or something like that.
So like if the Nets really did, if we're to believe those reports from pre-draft that the Nets wanted Ron Holland and they had him high on their board and they said, we'll give you Dorian Finney-Smith and Dennis Schroder or something. And like, they're like, all right, this is enough for us to, consider trading him. And then we, whatever else. And once again, the Nets would have to be pretty high on Holland still. Like they would have to look at it similar to how Masai looked at the, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley style trade last year.
Yeah.
Getting a prospect as opposed to picks. Now, I think it's more likely that the Nets just go to a contender and they get in a guy in the door. They don't get a guy in the door. They just get picks. so they can continue to be bad this year and then just have as many shots at the top of the draft. But those kind of things are plausible now for the Pistons. And
also, all due respect to our guy Dutch, but I don't think you got to worry about him ruining the tank.
For sure. No, if anything, I think he would help the tank a lot this year.
Yeah,
he's extremely raw still. And once again, like wings who can't shoot, I know it is kind of Sean Marks' thing based on the guys that he's gotten in the door. Zaire Williams, Keon Johnson, who have been doing a great, I don't know if you caught the Bucks Nets game last night, but one of the funniest wrinkles, actually, I'm going to save this for later because I might take this player in the draft. Okay. But in general, with the Nets, there have been a lot of games this year where it's very close late in games. And as Will has pointed out, Keon Johnson has done miracles for the tank. They always want to have at least one or two of those guys around to help, because Jordy Fernandez has made this team like fairly, but it is pretty much a perfect 1-for-1 for that Jazz year from a few years ago where they just still had like Mike Conley and they just had like a semblance of a normal team. I think Kelly Olynyk was on that team. And it actually hurt them and ended up giving them like the 10th pick in the draft or the 9th pick in the draft, wherever they picked in that draft. And the Nets, I don't think they have to worry about that this year, to be clear, because the East, like the Sixers are rising up the board now. I think the Pistons would gladly jump them. I think the Raptors are never going to give up. They're never going to fully tank. Like there are teams they can easily fall under in this Eastern Conference, I think, over the course of the season, even though they already have 10 wins on the season, I think. So it is a very long season. But anyway, on to our next pick. I've taken Cade with the first pick in the I owe you an apology draft.
So me and Knicks fans have a fraught relationship. But Knicks fans, I'm here to tell you and own up to one of the dumber critiques I have. Karl-Anthony Towns, I owe you an apology. Not only do I owe you, very specifically, I owe your rebounding an apology. Which
I tried to tell you. I didn't understand why you were so dead set on this.
I just because he seems like he would be soft, but I respect. I mean, like he owned me. Like I'm exposed as having no idea what he's talking. Do you know he's literally number one in the NBA in defensive rebound percentage right now? Literally number one. And by the way, like by a substantial margin. Sabonis is second at 29.7 for some context. Jonas Valanciunas 29.4, Jared Allen 29 flat. Katz is 34.4. like a true like dominant, like not just like dominant rebounding numbers from Kat at the center position.
I love that your analysis of Kat's rebounding was essentially a guy from Long Island, an Italian guy who, when he found out that they were trading for Karl-Anthony Towns, was completely convinced that he was going to be a bad rebounder because he's soft. We're trading Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo for this guy? Huh?
I genuinely didn't think so. Well, and the other thing too is I thought that they'd like leave it to other people. Like I thought like Josh Hart would get like for example would get a huge amount of them, or like they do like more gang rebounding stuff. But it's like just him, and he's winning his one-on-one matchups. So yeah, I mean I was owned, and then on top of everything else, he's having like we've talked about this before. Amazing offensive shooting season. His on-offs for the Knicks are like insane.
If we still did all NBA, he would be second team all NBA for center in terms of positional stuff.
And
he'll probably end up second or third team, I think, with the non-positional stuff. Yeah, but he would certainly be second right now, right? Because Anthony Davis has fallen off a bit.
Yeah,
I know some of the defensive stats are still bad with him, but like the offense is so good.
Yeah,
and you add in the fact that he's seemingly very important to them. If I remember correctly. This game that the Pistons just beat the Knicks, I think that Cade had one of his best games of all time, like maybe his best game as a pro. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty certain Karl-Anthony Towns was not playing in that game. He's been very important to their offense and what they want to do.
Yeah.
And I always thought that Kat was a very good offensive player. I think he's went to another level this year in terms of offensive effectiveness. Like I know that you could, if you dug through some of the non-Rudy lineup stuff, this was in there. Like there were stats that kind of implied that Rudy might have been holding him back when he had to play the 4 more often offensively, even though he helped cover up a lot of Cat's defensive issues. But he's been incredible this year. Yeah. Once again, like with the Embiid injury, with Anthony Davis out, with Bam playing the way he is, with Sabonis playing the way he is, Karl-Anthony Towns has very obviously been, it's either, Wemby, I guess. Like it's Wemby. If you consider Wemby a 5, it's Wemby, Jokic, and Cat would be the all NBA centers right now if they did that. Maybe Anthony Davis, but also he could be a 4 or 5. Same with Cat. So
I'd probably make a case for Cat over Wemby, to be honest. Well, then again, the defense is night and day for those two guys. But
I found every time we say anything even remotely critical of Wemby, he immediately is like that guy for like a month.
For sure.
I think we were like, someone said this is the second straight season where we're like, look, long term, we're still taking Wemby, but Chet right now, and then Wemby immediately turns into, KD with even with like the greatest defense you've ever seen. So right now,
Spurs are losing recently though. So could we win that under? Who knows? Keep an eye on it.
What's their record?
We're 12-12. They're down to 500 now.
They're still going to clear 35. I think that was their line.
They won against the Pelicans. How many more games do they have left against the Pelicans?
That's kind of one of the only. I was going to say one of the only free wins left. But I don't think any of us are going to take Wemby in this draft just because Wemby's. We've never been anti-Wemby.
What we were skeptical of was maybe some of his supporting cast gets drafted, but like that, because that's what we were skeptical of, is like this team is dog shit.
But Wemby so far this year is averaging 23 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists. We've talked about the blocks before. The blocks are off the chart. 3.4 blocks a game. Jesus Christ. And he's shooting 48% from the field. Now he's up to 34% from 3. So Wemby's been that guy. Definitely one, if not the best defender, one of the 2 or 3 best defenders in the NBA. And his offense has improved leaps and bounds since this time last year, I would say. And even though I go boomer mode with him sometimes, and I'm like, get your ass in the paint, you're 7'3" or 7'4", however tall he is. The 3-point shot is like, he hit a huge 3 in clutch time last night. Like it's very obvious that is going to be good for his long-term potential. And right now they're not, the number one thing for them isn't winning a championship. The number one thing for them is how does Wemby reach a ceiling? And we could still be kind of mid or bad during this time, even in this stacked Western Conference, to try to get more of a supporting cast around him. So Cat's a good one. I had him on my list because I like the trade. Like I definitely thought they won that trade. I went back and forth on it for a little bit, but my initial reaction was Karl-Anthony Towns is the best player in this trade, very obviously.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's proved to be even more important for the Knicks than I could have ever imagined. Because
I thought it would be rockier. You know what I'm saying? Like if you told me Brunson was playing this way and the Knicks had the record, you know what I'm saying? Like I thought Cat would be the one that would need the adjustment period, and I think he's very clearly been their best player for like
the thing that I think that Cat brings to this Knicks team is that it just puts everyone in their right roles.
Yes.
Like OG doesn't, like OG has these random games where he pops off. He doesn't need to do that. Like he can be just a defensive roamer who you could put on the other team's best player sometimes, who is going to hit open shots and is having like a sub all-star level season. You could make the argument so far this year. And then I know Bridges has struggled. He's kind of bounced back a little bit recently, but it also like has really opened up things for Josh Hart, who's just kind of wreaking havoc right now. He's shooting like I think he's shooting like 75% at the rim right now. His 2-point percentage is insane.
I think he's like top 20 in VORP. Yeah, he's 16th in VORP.
And I think a big part of that is just the paint being open for him when Cat is out there, because Cat is such a threat from 3 that he can be kind of a menace. I mean, he's averaging 14 points on 60% from the field, 39% from 3, 8.5 rebounds, 5.6 assists. Like he's having by far his best offensive season. So So yeah, he's been great. And a big part of that is definitely Cat opening things up for a few other guys on the team. And especially with this adjustment period with Brunson, has been a big part of that. So, all right, the third pick in the since you're going to be a coward and just not take the guys that you hate, I'll rip the Band-Aid off. Tyler Herro.
I was thinking about it. Hold on. Unlike Cade, I thought about it. I had him on my short list. I was, if we got to the end of the draft and he wasn't taken, I was going to take him.
2 weeks ago, I said that one of Cade or Tyler Herro will make the All-Star team this year, and you said you were going to root for Cade. I do just want to point that out.
Did I lie? Who's to say? I don't know.
You're becoming hero pilled?
I'm not. I mean, I'm not becoming hero pilled.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so much. There's too many agendas. You ask me on a different day, and I'll come up with it. I do think Hero's like genuinely been better, though. You know, he hasn't had like the late game like execution. Yeah. He's also not the defender. Actually, now, I'm being a hater. Cade's been better. Never mind.
The Luigi news has got you feeling swagged up, white boys.
Yeah. Well, and
white boy winter.
And this is what I'm saying. The second you put your trust in a white boy, here comes the tweets.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would say Tyler Herro's been the second most prolific white shooter this year. He is really having like an insane shooting season right now. Like, once again, it was really funny because we talked about this a few days ago.
Yeah.
And I just fully dropping the bit until the last few days. I haven't watched a ton of the Heat. Like, I watched them play the Sixers earlier this year. I've caught them here and there. They just haven't really been like at the center of league attention really this year. I would say they've kind of been more on the fringes of the discussion. So I haven't really caught a ton of their games this year, to be completely honest with you. But the other night I decided to watch the Heat play against the Cavs. So last night I watched the Heat and the Cavs play and basically answered all of my questions in terms of what I thought was happening with Tyler Herro this year. And the reason I say this is because the comp I always thought that would be similar to like his ceiling was a CJ McCollum type, like a bucket getter that you would probably, if you really wanted to get the most out of him, you couldn't run your offense through him, but you could occasionally throw him the rock, let him cook, work off ball actions for him. And he might get to a level where he's such a good shooter and a decent enough creator that he could be part of a really good team. The thing with Herro this year is exactly what happened with CJ McCollum back in 2021, which was basically they said, stop taking these fucking long twos, start taking more threes. You're one of the best shooters in the league. Don't fuck it. Like, even if you miss 10 threes in a game, we don't give a shit. We want you to take these shots. And this was, like I said, my sneaking suspicion that I had was that Tyler Herro probably changed his shot diet. And I looked at his numbers, and he's taking like 4 more threes a game than he took last year. He's making an incredible amount of threes right now. I mean, once again, you want to talk about high volume shooting seasons? Right now he's shooting 10 threes a game. So it's actually only 2 more than last year. But he's making 42% of those threes. The list of players who have taken 10 threes a game and made over 40% of them is literally like maybe just Stephen Clay. Like, maybe one Duncan Robinson season, but I don't think he ever reached 10 threes taken in a game. He could definitely be on a hot streak for sure. But his career averages from 3 suggest that he is a very, very good shooter. Like, that's never been a question with Tyler Herro. And he's a pretty dynamic shooter too, I would say. Like, someone who is not only just going to stand in a corner and shoot threes. Like, he can shoot off the dribble. You can run actions for him off screens. He has like, and the defense can't really sell out to stop the 3 because he can fully get downhill and make plays in the paint. And that's been the thing, just watching that game last night. It seems like he has way more confidence this year. His 3-point shot profile has gone up. And because of that, it is just making his efficiency so much better across the board. His passing looks better because of that. He's starting to understand what defenses send at him and where he can find open guys because they're so worried about his three-point shooting. And I think that he has effectively become the best version of what he can be. And I think, once again, if there was an all-star game today, not saying like if this three-point percentage drops down to 37 and his efficiency dips a little bit and his defense is still as bad as it is and his finishing is still as bad as it is, and he gets down to closer to where he's at career-wise true shooting, like he's at right now he's at 63% true shooting, which is fucking insane. On his volume, to have that is like absolutely nuts. But if he gets down to, 59% true shooting, there's an argument that he's probably the best regression candidate of anyone on this list, just because this is a pretty crazy hot shooting streak. But for right now, I don't even think I could have thought he would be this good for 2 months. Like, after the last few years, it felt like he was going to be more of an afterthought with the Heat. It felt like he was always going to be the third or fourth guy there, especially with, Hawkes having the year he had as a rookie. I know he's older, but they're like the same age, basically. Which is wild to think about. But Jovic kind of coming up in thinking that he was going to potentially have a breakout year. Khalil Ware was a guy I liked in the draft that they took. And right now, it feels like if there was one person, Jimmy hasn't necessarily played enough games, even though I still think he's their best player. Bam has had a down year. Like, if the Heat get an all-star right now, it should be Tyler Herro. And I think that the fact that he has reached this level, I just have to give him props for that, because I thought he was a candidate to be traded more so than make the all-star team. Yes. This is completely caught me by surprise.
God, every day I wish, look, what Joe Cronin did got the Celtics a title, but if he had taken them up on the Damian Lillard trade, we could have ruined the Miami Heat for years to come. And that is a road that was, a road less traveled.
Did you see him in Miami, Dame?
Yeah, I'm sure he was.
He went off in Miami. It's just funny that his two of his best game with the Bucks have both been in Miami. I think he's had two of maybe his 3 or 4 best games have been in Miami, if I remember correctly.
So right now, Tyler Herro's percentage is or his attempts per game is 9.9. So he's not quite at the 10. But here is everyone who's shot over 40% on 10 field goals a game.
10 threes taken.
Yeah, 10 threes taken. So it is RJ Hunter on small sample size is the first one. Okay. Right, there are Ant this season is technically there right now, but that will drop off. There are 3 other people. 2 of them are
okay. I'm going to guess Steph.
Yes.
Dame.
Steph 7 times.
Yeah. Dame
once.
And is the other guy Clay or Harden?
It's Clay. Clay. Harden's on here, but he shot 36% both times he did it. Pretty close is Buddy Hield in 2021-22. He did.
I was going to say, I know Buddy had one random season where he really shot even more than he usually has, and then made a ton of threes. But still, literally what you just listed is the greatest shooters of all time, and then Tyler Herro, and then Anthony Edwards this season, who I expect that to drop at some point.
That's going to drop.
I mean, it already has started to regress a little bit.
Yeah. So, all right. I've been treating all of these very personal, by the way, so it's not a thing. So this one really fucking hurts me.
Let's go.
While we're talking about the Miami Heat, I said, Jimmy Butler, there's no way that Jimmy Butler can do it again. He can't get away with it. He's too old. This is, come back, Jimmy. Performance artist, kid. There's no way. I was like, there's no way Jimmy Butler could possibly have a good season. And I'm owned, because there is one way that Jimmy Butler could have a very good season, and that is having a free throw rate of 66.1%.
Okay, so it's not at peak Shaq levels. It's just around. It's around peak Shaq levels now. So for anyone who missed this, we talked about this recently, and Jimmy Butler actually had a free throw percentage higher than Shaq ever had in his prime, but that is down to it's regressed to 66%. But he's still shooting almost 10 free throws per game at this point.
Yeah. Let's see.
He doesn't even take 10 shots a game, I don't think.
No,
or it's around that. Okay, he's at 7.5. So last night actually killed his average a decent amount.
He's and I mean, like 65 true shooting. Like he's still like
19, 5 and 5.
Yeah, 19, 5 and 5. Like this isn't obviously like the best we've ever seen Jimmy Butler. There's like some things to like poke holes in it, but he's very much like still Jimmy Butler, and most importantly, he's playing games. Like, and I kind of thought that this would be a like weird, awkward season for him. I kind of thought he like might drop off a little bit. It seemed like he was getting injured more and more. Like maybe he will end up getting injured, but like for right now, I don't feel very good about like fading the Heat. I do think if like this is the Jimmy that shows up, as much fun as I've had calling Bam Bam Whiteside, I do think that he is going to kind of even out a little bit and like maybe not.
Let's be fair. It's Ben Adebayo, just to be clear.
Ben Adebayo. There we go.
We're slandering Bam.
I do think that that's going to even out, and I do, unfortunately, as much as I've like made my position like rolling my eyes at the Heat. Oh, the 2023 Miami Heat like broke everyone's brains, and like we have like a weird like thought on this team. I am starting to like look at this team, and they could be a like genuinely dangerous playoff team, which I am kind of moving on. I didn't think there was any way they were winning a playoff series. Now I do think they could absolutely like win a playoff series if this kind of stays the same. So
you have the Sixers injuries and all the shit they've gone through this year.
Yes.
The Pacers regression. A few teams that were in the Miami Heat range that one of the reasons I was kind of higher on them being one of the top 6, maybe 7 seeds in the East was because I feel like every year we have a team that has a year from hell, and it's never the Miami Heat because they have the best coach that can take spare parts, and now Drew Smith is playing well for them, and it's like, okay, all right, fine, sure. And they always figure out a way to have a top 10, 12 defense and a level of competency even when they don't have their best players, which I think is always going to keep them in that range. Whereas you have the Pacers and the Sixers having their kind of year from hell years so far. I know the Sixers, everyone's like, oh, the Sixers they're back. And I'm like, let's see the team be healthy for 2 weeks. Give me 2 or 3 weeks before I start to buy back in on them being anything more than, the 10 seed or whatever. The Heat, I know you're going to at least get that baseline level of like the 8 seed. And I think of all the teams in that range, if you want to talk about health availability, best coach, like potential to maybe even get better, they have been kind of aggressive at making moves. They know that this is the last Jimmy year potentially. I mean, he'll probably opt in next year and play again next year. But if this is the last year that we even get like a semblance of Jimmy Butler being Jimmy Butler, then I think they're more likely to make moves at this deadline to try to improve the team. And then of those B tier teams, if the Sixers can never get healthy, those C tier teams in the East, I think that they have potential to be the team that no one wants to play again in the playoffs. Jimmy, it is really amazing if you watch the games, because I actually think by the eye test, he does look washed. Like I agree with you. I agree with you. I was watching the game last night and I was like, this guy, and I know even some Heat fans expressed some concerns earlier in the year. Like he doesn't look like he can run. He doesn't look like he can jump. And he's still like an effective player. Like,
that's the thing is he's turned into like, cause he's like kind of, honestly, he's in the Kyle Lowry, like Marcus Smart, like mold of player, but like the triple S tier of
the
that
Michael
player.
Jordan of
yeah. Yeah, of rap mode. He is the Michael Jordan of rap mode. Like he's always going to like find a way to do it. So it's almost irrelevant that he looks washed because he just free throw grifts more and it works. Like so, I don't know, man. Like I am starting to feel a little bit of like heat. I don't think they're like a genuine threat to the Celtics if like, for example, Porzingis is healthy, but like if Porzingis isn't healthy, if Drew Holiday continues to be
I don't think they have shit for
like Drew
I don't think that they can take down the Celtics.
I don't either. But
I think they could cause problems
chance,
for any of the other top teams, though.
There is a chance if like Porzingis is out, if like Drew has like a bad series, if like this is who Jaylen Brown is, if the like the pumpkin stops on
if
the
literally everything goes wrong for the Celtics, which as
I'm just saying, and it's happened before.
Knows,
it's happened before against the Miami Heat. I'm just saying, like it doesn't happen. Like obviously the Celtics have a horseshoe up their ass against every other team in the NBA. I'm just saying that would happen against the Miami Heat. That is the series when that would happen. I still don't think the Heat win. By the way, if all of that happens, I think it's Celtics in 7. But I will be going insane on this podcast, and there will be there will be several calls to tactical teams. I will be dangling. It'll be like, you remember when like Michael Jackson like had dangled that baby out the window? Do something similar, but like with Will, like I'll have taken Will hostage somehow. So this
is gotten to the point where the Celtics are so good and so unbeatable that you have to have fantasies about them being oppressed now, and them potentially.
They're not oppressed. They're going to be. I'm saying. It would be the. I'm just saying it would be the piece de resistance in the Heat Celtics driving me insane rankings if this team that sucks ass by all stretches of the imagination beat one of the most dominant regular season teams of all time in round 1 of the playoffs. That would make me go insane. I'm just saying, like
I think I would take all 3, the Cavs, the Celtics, and the Magic over the Heat in a series.
Yes.
I think they can cause problems for all of those teams except for the Celtics. And I think that when you get out of that top 4, which the Knicks are the 4 seed right now, the Heat, the Bucks, the Hawks, the Sixers will probably eventually be somewhere up close to this. I think that if the Heat can stay healthy and the Sixers still have their issues, of the B and C tier teams in the East, there certainly is there's some chance that they can be competitive in a playoff series. I have a hard time seeing them beating any of the top teams, to be clear, this year. But I do think that Jimmy being as good as he is, with even being this limited and really never giving a shit about the regular season, is something that has to be at least acknowledged for sure.
I would like to see Heat Knicks. I think that's a really interesting series.
I think I literally picked that. Oh no, I had Cavs Knicks as my first round series, but Heat Knicks would be a great series.
I think the Cavs just juice them. I don't think Cavs Heat is close. I think the Cavs are like custom made to just disassemble them. But I do think like the Magic and the Knicks and some of these other teams, it would be like a little bit more interesting. So
we'll see. All right.
Bucks, for example. Bucks might be back, by the way. I know we're not doing team. We're doing just players, right?
Yeah. We're doing players, but there might be a player on the Bucks that you want to apologize to. I don't think I have any on my list because we talked about them more on the not washed Patreon episode we did. But we might have a little aside about the Bucks. Actually, let's just do it right now.
Yeah,
I'm declaring the Bucks not. The Bucks are about what I expected them to be because I had the Bucks as the 4 seed, I think. Going into the season, you had them as a play-in team, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
This is what I expected the Bucks to be.
Yeah.
I didn't expect them to be. I don't think they're championship contenders. I don't think they're dead on arrival in the playoffs. I think they're somewhere in between those two. And I think that if you expect them to be championship contenders just because they have Giannis, you're probably not readjusting to how good the rest of the league is right now. But Giannis is having an absolutely incredible season. Oh, and by the way, I know everyone's going to make fun of me because the Sixers with Drew Hanlon. By the way, Sam, I need you to pay attention for a second. Sixers with Drew Hanlon. Okay, ready? Tyrese Maxey gets strong, goes Jason Tatum mode, breaks his shot this year.
Yep.
Just like Tatum until this year couldn't really fix his shot with Hanlon, whatever. Herro, by the way, is a Hanlon guy, and Giannis has fixed his mid-range shot working with Drew Hanlon so far to start this year. So Drew Hanlon, you're on my shit list.
He's the Karis LeVert of shooting coaches, where he just spin the wheel. What's the outcome going to be? Yeah. Like
one night Giannis will be MJ, the next night he will be fucking Ben Simmons.
Pew pew pew. Oh no, you laid it on the Markelle Fultz space. Goodbye for one season.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like Maxey always shouts out Drew to be like, because he had a game recently where he made like 6 threes, which he only has done once this year. And he was like, yeah, one of the things that me and Drew have been working on is my pull-up 3, because without Embiid, I don't get as many catch and shoot opportunities. So I'm working on my pull-up 3. And then I'm like, don't say that out loud. You're shooting like 27% on pull-up 3s. Like, that's not good. Like this is not a great advertisement for Drew Hanlon. But once again, he's a hero guy. He's a Giannis guy. He's designed to drive me insane, Drew Hanlon. Now Tatum is like an MVP candidate this year. The Fultz thing is not his fault, to be clear. I've never thought the Fultz thing was his fault. The Fultz thing was clearly something no one could have ever saved. And he was just broken beyond repair. But if he really did fuck up Maxey's shot, I will never forgive him, because that was what made Maxey. And I need to continue because I'm just getting too angry.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, but anyway.
Also,
Bucks,
chat, stop trying to distract Sam.
the Bucks. If we could give an apology to a team, I would give an apology to the Bucks. The Bucks are. I was too harsh on the Bucks. They might not have home court, but like they're going to be like they're going to belong more to the top tier than the bottom tier. Like I thought they were going to. Like they with Middleton the other night against the Celtics, they looked like. I was genuinely
they always
like,
put
very
the
impressed.
Celtics really tough. Is the
thing.
And like I just want them to get more quality wins. Is my thing. Like before, once again, I still think that they are one of the 4 or 5 best teams in the East. Even through the struggles, I think I maintained that they were going to be fine on the season. Like I didn't think that they were going to be like out of the play-in race or anything. But all of their wins are not good wins. Like I swear, I look at their schedule every week and I'm like, oh cool, they beat the Hornets again and the Wizards. Like if we're talking about top tier contenders, I want to see them beat good teams. They have 1 win against teams above 500.
Well, they're not gonna do that. Like you know what I'm saying? Like I don't even want that for them. I like they can get their shit kicked on like their West Coast road trip, and I don't care. It's like can you win against like the Magic and the Knicks? You know what I'm saying? Like that's got to be like their.
Well, it's going to be easy to beat the Magic now without Franz.
Well,
I mean, they tomorrow in the Cup they play against the Franz and Paulo-less Magic. So once again, I think they're a good team. I don't think that they're up there with the other teams when we talk about like the top of the league. Like I just need to see them beat more good teams.
They're not like going to win the title, but like I do think that like I thought we were like heading for like them getting like shit canned by the Celtics in like 4.
In the first round.
Yeah, in the first round. Like I don't think that's
they'll be one of the top 5 teams.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's more likely they're in a 4-5 matchup with the Knicks, and that like goes 7 in some way. So I'm reconsidering my stance on the because honestly, they could have won that game if Giannis didn't take one of the most insane shots I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, Giannis pull up 3 in crunch time. I don't really know what.
Yeah,
that's my legs are tired. Let's just end this game right now. Either one way or the other. Either I'm making a 3 and we're gonna win this game, or I'm missing the 3 and we lose.
And as much as I'm saying like the Bucks impressed me, like the Celtics did like just have a nightmare like game from 3 and they still didn't win. So that's tough. Like that doesn't bode well for like their like actual high end like outcomes. You can't beat the Celtics when they go like -1. For example, like the Grizzlies did. The Celtics were cold from 3 again in the Grizzlies game, and the Grizzlies actually won that game. So that's
difference.
So players we might know owe an apology. So I want to take this player because I've never really even had a strong opinion on them one direction or the other.
Okay.
But they do need to be recognized for the season that they're having at 31 years old. Dennis Schroder Dennis Schroder is currently averaging almost 19 points, 6.5 assists, 3 rebounds. And he is shooting for the Nets right now, who is a team that, especially without Cam Thomas, have one player that can dribble a basketball. Basically, it's him and Cam Johnson are their whole offense right now. He is shooting 45% from the field, 38% from 3, 88% from the line. And I honestly think that if we do a like guys who could potentially, he's not going to make the All-Star team because the Nets won't have a representative. Like by the time the All-Star team comes around, they're not going to be good enough. But in terms of players that could be traded to contenders at this deadline, I think he's got to be pretty far up there in terms of like a guy who can impact for a playoff team, like that can come off the bench as a 6 man, because what he's done so far this year, like I think he's been a sub all-star level player. He's been one of the 50 best players in the NBA, and he's been doing it with, not a ton of help really with the Nets. Like last night, once again, the Bucks, their perimeter defense has been better recently. AJ Green and Andre Jackson Jr. playing more minutes has really helped with that for them, and they've really needed that. But he absolutely destroyed the Bucks last night. And if you want to take the Bucks seriously as a team, and Dennis Schroder is dropping 34 points, 11 assists, and shooting 13 of 19 from the field, like he has had one of the great late career kind of resurgent seasons so far this year. And I think that if they make him available at this deadline, which I think everyone expects them to, they might be able to get like, I don't think they're going to get like a good first round pick, but they might be able to get like a lottery protected first round pick for Dennis Schroder, which I could have never imagined. I would have thought like he went for like 2 seconds. He was a salary dump from the Raptors. The Raptors salary dumped him at last deadline when they traded for Emmanuel quickly, and then they cut Spencer Dinwiddie after that. So to go from salary dump to sub all-star level season, and like a few people said like, well, Vooch has been having Vooch has made 2 all-star teams before. Like Schroeder's never even been close to this conversation. He's been like a fringe starter for most of his career. So to have the season that he's having at age 31, we've seen it at times in FIBA play. Like we've seen it when he plays for the German national team. But I think that if like, I think he could help a team like the Magic a lot. Yeah. I think he could help any team that really just has, I don't think the Sixers would trade for him, but I think he could help a team like the Sixers a lot. Like, I think that any team that has offensive deficiencies and a lack of ball handling and creators, Dennis Schroder could really help with them. And that's something that I could have really never imagined before this season.
No. And I think one of my Nets friends was texting me like this morning and was asking me like what the return package was for Dennis Schroder. He's like, do you think we can get a first? And I was like, it's not impossible. Like that would have been like unlikely. It would probably be like heavily...
a top 18 protected first or something.
No, it'd be like a fake one. It'd be like the Detroit one we were just talking about. Right. But that's possible. Like one that like reverts to 2 seconds, but like that's like he's played himself into that type of conversation, which I don't think would like I certainly did not see coming. I mean, is this likely to continue? Like, yes, part of this is like the context of like,
him
when you're on a bad team. Yeah, when you're on a bad team and you have like Jordy Fernandez, you have some of the like. I think if you're someone who's trading for Dennis Schroder, you got to understand some of that pricing in. But it's also like not totally unheard of. Like he had that Oklahoma City Thunder season where he was really good. Like it's not a
1/6 man of the year.
Yeah, 1/6 man of the year that year. I want to say like a couple of the Hawks years when he was the starter, like afterwards, like he like did okay on like some of those Hawks teams after the
I actually think his second best season other than the OKC year before this year, if I remember correctly, was the Lakers vet minimum year where he was on a vet minimum like 2 years ago with the Lakers and had some moments. But other than that has really struggled to find his place anywhere in the league. I mean, we've talked about the bag fumble that he had a ton of times,
Yeah.
he's at least going to recoup some of that money over the course of the next 2 or 3 years, which is good for him because I didn't even think he was going to get back to the level where he was a mid-level guy, and now he's very clearly playing at even above his pay grade.
He, kind of almost regardless of what happens the rest of the year, he's probably earned himself another 2 years in the league, and I think he was like kind of on his way out here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
all right. So just a recap here. We had Cade with the first pick. You pick Cat with the second pick. Tyler Herro for me with the third pick. Jimmy Butler with the fourth pick. Dennis Schroder with the fifth pick. And now it is up to you once again with the sixth pick.
I don't like that you did this to me. You're making me.
Sam hates this concept.
I really hate this concept because I have to go out and all of my agendas. I have to kill like half of my agendas for the year, which sucks. Like, so I want to proceed this by saying that he's technically having a worse year than last year, but I think he's been better. Like, but stats wise, he's been worse. But like, just from watching him, he's been better, and he's kind of won me over. I'm gonna give up the ghost on Brandon Miller. I think Brandon Miller.
I did forget you were a Brandon Miller hater.
Yeah, I haven't been as vocal about it because I really haven't had much of a leg to stand on. I was kind of hoping once the team like looked a little more real this year, he would kind of eat shit and like not be as not do as well with LaMelo Ball there. And it's been like, the shooting splits are like a little worse, but like who fucking cares? Like he's been I think he's been better as a defender. He genuinely can create, and he is like a true like shooter with gravity. And I think, seeing him be like a real NBA, like small forward specifically, and a good small forward in like a Hornets system. Obviously the Hornets like blow ass. Like, don't get me wrong. Like they suck, but like he jumps off the screen every time I watch the Hornets. Like, fuck. Like he's a real fucking player. This sucks. Like, yeah,
he's a real,
yeah.
I would say there are a handful of heat check guys so far this year. Tyler Herro's number one for me. Like if Tyler Herro makes a three, look out because he's about to drop like 5 in a row. I would say Brandon Miller's probably been in the top 3 or 4 of those guys so far this year. For me, when I tune into a game, when he gets rolling, like he had that game against the Sixers that we streamed a week ago, where it was just like the second he saw a 3 drop in the second half, I think he made 5 threes in that second half just to keep them in the game. Yeah. And I think the comp that Mateo made in the Discord is the one that I really like. He's like early Clippers Paul George, where like he's not quite prime level Paul George athlete that can just get downhill whenever he wants, get to the line, get to the rim, all that stuff. But he's really crafty from the outside. He's incredibly efficient. Like he's one of the best wing shooters from 3 in the NBA on high volume. And I hope that LaMelo can eventually get healthy because they're starting to have the makings of like a real good modern NBA team. They just need to find the right pieces around those guys. I think they whiff with the Tidjon Saloon pick. I wish that they went in a different direction there. I wish that they just took like
Castle.
I know that. Well, Castle was off the board.
Oh, that's right. Fuck.
Donovan Clingan was who I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Where it was just like, just get a normal center in. Like I know you like Mark Williams, but like I'm not sure Mark Williams can stay healthy.
Yeah.
And you already have the questions with LaMelo Ball. Like just get like a normal center in there. And I think that this team long term, I would like their outlook a lot more. They took a swing, which look, I understand you have to take swings on guys sometimes. I'm just not a believer in that player or that prospect, and I don't think that he's shown anything in the NBA that would make me think any differently. But Brandon Miller and LaMelo is at least something to work with, and they're going to be high again in this draft, and this draft is even better. So they're looking at a long-term future of those 2 core guys with potentially adding a third guy in this year, and then
Nick Smith Jr.
I thought you were going to say Grant Williams, but he's out for the year. So
he's out for the year, yeah, and he's over the hill, and he tackled Tatum. So I'm out. I'm done defending Grant Williams. I'm over it.
For you personally, Brandon Miller's a good pick. I don't have him
Yeah.
on my list because I always
Well,
thought that Brandon Miller
That's
was
what
good.
I'm saying. I'm getting yelled at in the comments because all your players are good, and it's like, yeah, I just
That's
didn't
the
like
point.
those, and it's like that's the point. Like, yeah, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Like that's what this
I
exercise
was gonna
is.
say you
Yeah.
had Miller 9th on your pre-draft board. I think I had him 4.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, AOC and Dean on draft both cooked me on that pick. So
yeah. So yeah, I was gonna say the facts and logic guy look like they have kind of owned you on the Brandon Miller pick.
yeah.
And I still think he'll be better than Scoot.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
And he's certainly going to be better than Scoot, and that was the debate, and I was very wrong on that. So
yeah, I could not be more owned on that.
Gotta hand it to him.
All
right. So
yep.
All right. Next up on my board. This is just all getting impatient with young guys who really never showed anything that I thought that they should have shown. But I'm going to take DeAndre Hunter here. Why are you surprised?
DeAndre Hunter?
Have you looked at DeAndre Hunter's stats this year?
I get it. Would we call him young? What's he? How old is he?
He's 27
29.
now.
He's
27.
Oh, he's younger than I thought.
Yeah. He really was. The thing about DeAndre Hunter is that I have for years said, and I still kind of think he's a little bit Tobias Harris-y for my taste, as I've said.
A lot.
As I've said many times. But I have looked at, I've watched the Hawks a decent amount this year, and he's fixed his three-point shooting. He's just a good three-point shooter now. We have a year and 14 games this year to suggest that on high volume, last year he shot 38.5%. This year he's shooting 42.5%. And even with some of his deficiencies, with the fact that he's not a great decision maker, the fact that he's not like an elite athlete or anything like that, he's a big wing who could shoot and is pretty good defensively. And I think that for what I thought, DeAndre Hunter was one of the worst players in the NBA made
right.
real money.
Yeah.
And from a rotation, when we would do worst rotation player draft, worst contract draft, DeAndre Hunter was always very high on my list.
Yes.
I thought that he was incapable of being a high minute player on a good team because of his deficiencies. If he can shoot like this, like he has over the last year, that just isn't the case. He's shooting 90% at the line. He's getting to the line 4.4 times a game this year. He's averaging 19 points. And everything else is still pretty much DeAndre Hunter level in terms of assists, rebounds, all that shit. But I do think that what someone's pointing out in the comments is correct. DeJounte Murray's addition to this team might have just kind of thrown everything off for those 2 years. And now it feels like Hunter's probably back in a role that's more suited for him. And I know that he's been coming off the bench for them, but he's still playing starter minutes. He plays 27 minutes a game, shooting 47% from the field, 42% from three, averaging 19 points a game. I don't think that all of that is fully sustainable, but I do think that if you're a high volume 3-point shooter who's pretty good defensively, that can genuinely get buckets, you're going to have some value, and he's probably not as bad as I made him out to be prior to this year. So I think DeAndre Hunter's been really good for the Hawks.
This is a vibes pick, though. Because I can't join you over there. The Tobias Harrisness is too much.
I've always said this about him.
Yeah, I can't. He could be shooting 70% true shooting, and I would still. I don't know. I will never be back in on DeAndre Hunter ever in my life.
Last year, 59.5% true shooting, 63.4% true shooting this year. Once again, I don't think he's a great player. He's probably a average starting wing, but I thought he was really bad. That's my thing is that is the level when we talk about owing apologies.
Yeah.
I thought he was one of the worst players in the NBA, and he's clearly not one of the worst players in the NBA.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. He's just not my kind of player at all. I'm not going to defend him. But wings who can shoot and stay on the floor defensively are just going to have value.
I mean, he is now probably going to have a 15-year NBA career.
100%. Like he's going to be in the league for a very long time if he can stay healthy.
Yeah. So
because that's always been another thing with him is he's actually like kind of sneakily injury prone. He only played 57 games last year, played 67 the year before, 53, 23. Like he's just never really been able to stay healthy either. But it feels like he's finally starting to kind of figure things out for himself. That Hawks team just has a lot of really like solid players.
Yeah. The Hawks. I'm annoyed that I zagged on the Hawks too early. I could have been. I mean, well, I guess we did lock the over, but.
By the way, I meant to bring this up earlier. Catch and shoot guys. Do you want to guess who? You're never going to guess this. I'm just going to read off the best catch and shoot guys in the NBA so far this year.
Okay. Is it Dyson Daniels?
Royce O'Neal, Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, Malik Beasley. Okay, not surprised by any of those. Makes sense. Yep. Royce being that high he's a very good catch and shoot guy. I'm not shocked by that. Nikola Vucevic.
I mean, with the season he's having, it does kind of make sense, but yeah.
And then your guy, Brandon Miller, and then Karl-Anthony Towns. So two of the guys that you took this year are both towards the top of the league in catch and shoot volume and efficiency percentages.
It's good. It's good, man. Like, I think that they, yeah. I don't
want to hand it to him.
I don't want to hand it to him, but I have to. So
also, another thing I wanted to point out here, in terms of guys who dribble the ball 5 times or more, Cade Cunningham is in the top 8 in terms of points per possession after dribbling the ball 5 times, which is just behind Anthony Edwards, James Harden, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And the guys who dribble the ball 1 to 4 times, number 4 is Tyler Herro. Just behind Zach LaVine, Anthony Edwards, and Kyrie Irving. So.
Oh, that's amazing. It's really good.
All right, so you are up next. Oh no, did you just go? Did you take Brandon Miller? No, I took DeAndre Hunter.
You did, yeah. You did DeAndre Hunter. This one is like I never necessarily thought this guy was bad, but I was putting him in some conversations that he shouldn't have been in. The Darius Garland rebound here has changed a lot of. I was very disrespectful to Darius Garland this last offseason.
This is probably by the way, I just want to say, I think that this is the greatest example of if a guy sucks against the Celtics, you just think he sucks.
Yeah. Well, he was actually pretty good against the Celtics in the playoffs.
I'm aware, but I'm saying historically speaking, that's always been a bad matchup for him.
Yes.
And he was not good in the Celtics game this year, which is despite having a really nice bounce back year.
Yeah. He was okay in one of them. He was bad in one of them, but he was bad.
The first one he was horrible.
Yeah,
the first one he went 3 for 21.
Yeah. No, I remember him being bad in one of them. Donovan Mitchell always kills it. Donovan Mitchell was great in both of them. But I do think like Darius Garland, like even when Darius Garland was like playing bad though, like it did seem like different, like in the game. Like I do think this is why Bill is the GOAT. I think Bill was cooking on that, like the broken jaw thing and the like eating through the straw. And like, I think that genuinely did affect things because he does look like completely different. Like part of that, like honestly, the stats aren't even really that different. I think he's turning the ball over a lot less. And I think he's
been way more efficient.
His
shooting has been incredible this year.
Yeah. But the shooting's been, I guess 42%, like versus
42% on 7 threes per game. Yeah. And he shot 6 threes per game, made 37% last year.
Yeah.
He's better from floater range. He's shooting better from everywhere.
Yeah. 62 true shooting compared to like the previous 3 years, 56, 58, 57.6. So yeah, I mean, like better shooting, obviously that's going to like create like a lot more L's, but like, I don't know. I was talking about like me personally, I was like, what with the Pelicans, like could he be in like a Brandon Ingram trade like with the Pelicans? You know what I'm saying? Like, and like that would have been such a disaster for the Cavs, you know? So, I mean, like, it's not like I ever thought like Darius Garland like stunk, but like, I don't know. I had some questions about like, what level you can win at with Darius Garland. They're totally gone. Like, well, am I still sure that like he's going to be a good playoff player? I don't know, but like very clearly like a very valuable, good young guard who's like belongs in this league and is like very good, deserves to be where he is. Like I think that there's no like I think it's pretty clear now that there was like never any like bones about that, and like think he's at worst is going to be like a flawed guard who maybe is like can't quite win you games in the playoffs, but that's still like a very valuable player. Even if he even when the shooting kind of deserts him, I still think he'll be pretty like useful.
So my question is, does Darius Garland make the All-Star team this year? Because now you look at the guards in the East, and I think there's 2 locks.
Yeah.
Brunson and Mitchell.
Yeah.
And then after that, it becomes like Dame probably will make it. And then you're talking about like, I don't think LaMelo's going to play enough games. He's still missing time.
Yeah.
You're talking about Trae Young, who's had a down year. Like Maxey and Halliburton aren't even in the conversation.
Derek White,
Tyler Herro, Cade Cunningham, Darius Garland. Those are like the 4 guys I think that could be up for those last few spots.
Yeah. I think Derek White should make it. I'm like genuine. Everyone knows I'm not afraid.
If Jalen doesn't make it, I think that Derek White probably will make it.
Jalen shouldn't. Honestly, Jalen shouldn't make it. Jalen's had a rough year. Like
I was going to say,
I think he'll be fine.
Based on what he's played this year,
yeah,
Derek White deserves to make it over him.
Yeah, I think Derek White should make it over a lot of the other guards. Like they were saying,
the name recognition thing is like huge for the All-Star game. Is my thing.
Yeah, no, probably.
The only thing is the 2 top guys get voted in, so that gives Trae a shot. Because Trae and LaMelo will always have the fan vote, which
for sure.
is like weighted in this voting in. The 2 top guys that get voted in, Brunson will be one of those 2 guys because of the New York thing.
For sure. Yeah.
Spotlight.
Yeah.
Having a good season. I think Mitchell will be the other one. So it'll be Mitchell and Brunson is my guess. And then I think it comes down to the coaches picking the other ones. And I think there's a chance Derek White gets in if the coaches are picking. I think the people that will get fucked over by the coaches would be Tyler Herro.
Yeah.
Would be like
Trae.
Trae.
Can make the fan vote. You're done. He's not.
I think this is specifically designed for teachers' pets.
Yes.
And I think that Cade's a teacher's pet.
Yeah.
And I think that Derek White's a teacher's pet. I think Drew Holiday has been a historical teacher's pet.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't have a chance this year. He's just not good enough.
Shouldn't.
But Dame is big enough name that I think that he'll probably just get in based on the legacy thing. And also Dame's been good this year. So like the combination of those 2 things.
Al Horford.
He's not even close for All-Star game?
Yeah. He's not going to play enough games.
He's not good enough. What are you talking about?
He's plenty good enough.
How are you saying? I literally think Peyton Pritchard has a better case for the All-Star game this year than
also
Al
true.
Horford.
Yeah, those should be the 4. It should be Tatum, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, Al Horford.
I could take. I know people are begging me to take Peyton Pritchard here. I had him on my list, but I've just never had an opinion on him. Like,
that's my thing.
He's been way better than I ever expected. To be clear,
true.
So I did do that with someone else, with Dennis Schroder. So maybe I should do it with Peyton Pritchard here.
I always kind of believed it. I remember you making fun of me because I said that I thought Peyton Pritchard could like win a 6th man of the year at some point.
I'm sure maybe I did. Okay. Yes. Then maybe I should take him.
Yes.
But also like I kind of think that I just haven't really had a strong opinion. This doesn't happen to other teams is my thing.
No, it doesn't. This is literally
Boston. This is insane. Like, this guy at 27 years old who wanted to trade a year ago, and then you got him back on a scam contract, is now like just below the All-Star conversation.
Yes. No, this is satanic. I hand up. This is demonic. This is like Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah. No,
but I do think that also one of the things that I've been saying is like the reason why I think a guy like Pritchard would do well on the Celtics is that when I watch the Celtics, it's impossible to help off any of their players because everyone is an amazing catch and shoot guy, including Pritchard himself. So Pritchard being on the court.
Well, the Grizzlies might have figured that out, though.
What do you mean?
They left Drew open and it fucking worked.
Okay, well, that
yeah,
was the hope when
yeah.
we were talking about it last year. As a Celtics hater, I was like, maybe Drew will just go doo-doo mode in the playoffs again. It didn't happen last year.
No.
But over the course of a larger sample, that's not an effective strategy, is my point.
True.
And Peyton Pritchard, at a minimum, is a good one-on-one player. He can get buckets one-on-one. He can play off the ball because of his catch and shoot ability. You can run plays for him. He can be a part of a really, really good offense because of that. Yeah. And the fact that he's having the season that he's having right now, once again, it only happens to the Celtics, but also is part of the context that he plays within, which is that, like, he's a good one-on-one player. He's a great catch and shoot guy. He's going to work good in Missoula's system. And him having a, like I said, like a sub all-star level season at age 27 when he literally just signed for below the MLE last year is truly demonic and makes me want to die. But he at least should get an honorable mention here for the season that he's having. I'll just run down my other lists of players that I had on here, which everyone wanted me to pick Jared McCain. I've already done 3 episodes on that. Like, I've apologized to Jared McCain plenty this year. Like, I was very wrong about him. He's been awesome. I get it. Jalen Wells from the Grizzlies, I didn't even have him ranked on my board.
That one is just like, I'm wrong. By the way, shout out to Chuck.
This might be the definition of I was not familiar with your game.
Yes.
Because Christian Wood, when Shaq had that quote, he didn't even know who Christian Wood was. That's how I feel about Jalen Wells this year. It's like, I just wasn't familiar with him. I just knew he was a second-round wing who could shoot. He's been really good defensively for them. He's opened up a lot for them because that was the one thing that they really missed, was a 3-and-D wing. And he's been, if not the best rookie, the second or third best rookie in the NBA this season. So he at least deserves an honorable mention here. Ty Jerome's another guy that I did not have an opinion on, but he's made his way into being a really effective bench guard for the team with the best record in the NBA, second best record in the NBA right now, in the Cavs.
Yep.
Another guy who's having a nice season for the Grizzlies, Jake LaRavia.
Yeah.
He's an NBA player. I didn't think he was an NBA player. He's been good for them. Another guy who's having a bounce back season that I should at least get an honorable mention here, John Collins.
I had him on my short list. And I thought you would make fun of me.
I always used to make fun of John Collins because I hated him for the 2021 Sixers season, and then he fucking sucked after that. That series, he had like 2 amazing games and then was just terrible after that. But now he is averaging, I think if I remember correctly, I hope that it's still the case. Yep, he currently, do you want to guess what his, dude, he's having a 50-40-90 season right now.
No.
Swear to God. He's shooting 53% from the field, 43% from 3, and 92% from the line, averaging 18 points, 8 rebounds. Like, he's having a legitimately very good. They might be able to get something for him at the deadline now. Whereas he was kind of in that DeAndre Hunter column where I was just like, you're going to have to salary dump him. Like he already got salary dumped to the Jazz. So that's definitely someone who needs a honorable mention here. Production wise hasn't been good, but I see the vision with Matas Buzelis, who I didn't like pre-draft. I think he's going to be a solid NBA player. He deserves a shout out. Cam Johnson, I didn't think he could be this good. I always liked Cam Johnson. He was always one of my favorite role players in the NBA. I didn't think he could be as good as he's been for the Nets so far this year. Clint Capella's having a nice bounce back season. And then one of the guys that I'm going to take someone else, but one of the guys that I think at least deserves a shout out and still confuses me to this day is RJ Barrett, because the numbers look good and he has, but the thing with RJ Barrett is that the difference between DeAndre Hunter and RJ Barrett is that I can see DeAndre Hunter easily having a role on a good team. I still can't with RJ Barrett. But then he has random games where he shoots like 12 of 13 from the field and looks like a diet Giannis. And I'm like, what am I to do with this information? I got yelled at. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this was that I'm guessing it's a Raptors fan, maybe a Knicks fan that listens to the podcast, signed up for the Patreon and was like, you guys talk about RJ Barrett like he's fucking Tobias Harris, and like, look at his numbers. Like, he's having a great passing season, his scoring efficiency's up, like his shooting's better. And then I'm like, I get it. But also my thing with RJ Barrett is like, I just never know what to do with him. Like he's been way better for Toronto, but it still doesn't feel like every time I watch outside of those random insane games where he goes off, it still feels like he doesn't fit on winning teams, if that makes sense to me.
Yeah, no.
Or if that makes sense to you.
It does. Yeah, no. I know exactly what you're trying to describe, and he's not.
He needs the ball.
Yeah.
He needs the ball, but also is not that guy. And defensively, I think he's just bad.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to see him. Now, look, if he can shoot like he shot last year for them, sure, I'll change my opinion. His shooting averages are down this year. He shot 55% and 39% for the field from them. That's different. If he does that, this year, I know his volume has gone up as a creator, as Scotty Barnes has been out more this year, and also Jakob Poeltl's missed some time. And quickly hasn't even played this year. But 45% and 34% with bad defense. I know he still has the games where he looks amazing, but like I'm not an RJ Barrett guy. Like, and I need to see what he did last year for a full season before I become an RJ Barrett guy. And if the Raptors end up getting an all-star, I think it should be Scotty Barnes and not RJ Barrett. But that's just
yes. I would agree with that. Yeah. 110%.
Anyway, I'm open to being wrong about him if he turns around. No, I haven't picked my guy yet.
Okay, you're picking
but I have to pick him.
Okay.
I'm taking Jaren Jackson Jr.
You fucker! That's who I was gonna. Okay, all right.
Okay, if you want to take that one, then
no. You go ahead. No, you take Jaren Jackson Jr. I have one more.
Jaren Jackson Jr. is one of the most confounding players in the NBA to me because I think he's bad at like several things, but he's still a good player. Like he's a bad passer. Yeah. He's a bad rebounder.
Yeah.
But for the role that they have put him in this season,
yes,
where he can just be a scorer, play finisher, and a defensive monster, he's great for what the Grizzlies need right now. And with Ja back and with most of like Santi taking another step and Wells being effective for them and
Arabia coming around, like
all of these guys, this year he is shooting 51% from the field, 35% from three. Once again, not great, but he's averaging 21 points, 6 rebounds. And then the defense is back to where it was before, where he's just looking like a defensive monster. So I think coming into this year, I drafted him in the fall off draft. Like we could have the perception very differently of him.
Yeah.
A year from now, but probably didn't take into effect that he's still 25 and they just had a nightmare season last year. And I think that I owe him an apology just because he very obviously could be the second or third best player on a really, really good team.
I think because I agreed with you on like everything you said in that thing, because I 100% lockstep on that. And I think what both of us didn't consider was that with them having that nightmare from hell year last year, that having personnel to cover up those, because he still has those very clear weaknesses. You know what I'm saying? Like he's still a bad rebounder and bad passer, but just having real NBA talent around that, like it just makes it look a lot less bad, you know, like, and the Grizzlies are kind of fucking loaded this year to be totally honest. Like they have.
So do you think that this, I think that they're so if I had to rank the teams in the West, I think that the Thunder coming into the year, I always thought they were going to be the best team, and I think they are the best team.
Yeah.
I still think I'd take Dallas as 2, just because I think Dallas's ceiling is higher than the Grizzlies to me. But in terms playoff-wise, like getting into a series, like if they can stay healthy, like, but as a regular season team, I think the Grizzlies might be the second best team. And then in the playoffs, they might even be the third best team.
I was gonna say, like, I'm still trying to like parse out what I think of the Warriors, like, to be honest, like, and like I can't. It's so hard for me to get a read on like the Warriors, like if they're like actually in a death spiral.
They're too
or,
old
like,
to me. I need them to. I need them to make another. I know their best players are old.
Yeah.
And once again, I was higher on the Warriors coming into the year. I like them, but like I want to see them make a push and get another guy in there, because like Todd's taking a step back, Melton getting injured, like. They're thin. I don't really know what they're going to do with Kuminga. Like, They've lost a lot of really close games recently, so that might balance out a little bit over the course of a season. But I want to see them be aggressive at the deadline to make one more upgrade because other teams just have more good players than them in general and more consistent players.
Well, and that's the thing with the Grizzlies is that like they are what I didn't like understand until I was watching them. Like genuinely, like top to bottom, Smart was throwing, and I think that's a pretty common occurrence this season. Is Smart just not doing very well? But the other Grizzly I thought like didn't play very well was Desmond Bane. And I had all these other guys I was watching that I thought were like way better. Like Jalen Wells is fucking kind of him. I mean, maybe like after his rookie year, he comes down. That's exactly the type of player that totally changes the franchise. When I talk about like nailing a second round pick and like getting a starter out of nowhere or something like that, and it totally changes like the direction of your franchise. Jalen Wells is like the exact example of that. And I think that the Grizzlies, more so than in previous years, they're going to have a lot of chances to play different styles. I mean, Ja's their ceiling raiser and like their engine, but they have like Edie when they want to play big. They have the Brandon Clark, Jaren Jackson Jr., like smaller front court. They have LaRavia off the bench. They have Desmond Bane. Santi. I didn't even fucking mention Santi.
Santi 7 can handle the ball and score and pass and like the thing that I think that why the Grizzlies are the Grizzlies is because they have a lot of size and they have a lot of skill. And the thing about Jaren Jackson Jr. is that he's kind of the perfect encapsulation of that. He's shooting on 10 twos per game. He's shooting 60%. Like that's really good for a guy that, once again, even with the weaknesses in his game, like he is just a very effective offensive scorer that can just care about shit on defense because they have so much talent that can make up for some of the lack of other shit that he can't do. Like you said, Clark's a great rebounder. Santi's huge and a good passer. They've added the right pieces around these guys to be play finishers, play connectors, and cover up some of the weaknesses of their stars. And like you said, Bane's having a bad year. Like I would say Bane's been the most disappointing by far of all of them. And maybe it's the oblique injury. I know that he had one of those too, but like he's only shooting 32% from 3, and this is one of the best shooters in the NBA. So if they can get him even being back like somewhat normal, like they're definitely going to be a problem. I'm kind of upset they're not in the cup because they feel like they're built perfectly for the cup.
I'm in awe. I mean, I make fun of the small bean drafting team, but like they really fucking did it this year, man. They like legitimately go like 13 deep with like real NBA talent. Like even Scottie Pippen Jr. they're bringing up in the comments, like is like it's a real player. Jay Huff. Jay Huff. That's another one.
Jay Huff signed off the scrap heap and is just like a good defensive center who can shoot threes and catch lobs.
He looks like some fucking guy behind me in a bar in Brooklyn and is just fucking swatting that shit everywhere. Like I was like, who the fuck is Jay Huff? And he was just tearing the Celtics apart. Like
they got like a bouncier Brook Lopez basically and for nothing. God. This is basically a better version of the team that they built a few years ago with Kyle Anderson and Anthony Melton and like so. And I think that this team is going to fare a little bit better in the playoffs than they have in the past.
I think they're a legitimate playoff threat. I don't think I'm retiring the small bean drafting team. This team is very fucking legit. I'm very in on the Grizzlies. I think the Grizzlies have they have real playoff upside. Like Ja Morant too. Like I know he's always been kind of like a highlight reel guy, but like he's like really him right now. Like really,
he's retiring from that. By the way, I don't know if you heard the news, but he's not dunking.
Yeah,
no dunks. He's fairly a huge fan of Trey, and
he dunked immediately. Yeah,
I know he dunked in that game, but no. I mean, look, the Grizzlies are definitely a threat out west for sure. I would like to see, once again, another team I would like to see be aggressive and try to make another trade. Like, I would just like to see them
consolidation one, are you saying? Like, because they don't even really need rotation guys. Yeah.
I know they're deep, but like, if they got one more quality starter, I would feel great about them. Like, Cam Johnson, maybe Jalen Wells makes it so they don't need Cam Johnson, but like, Cam Johnson was a guy I really liked for them in the preseason. There are guys they could go out and get.
Gigi and Vince, we didn't even talk about.
I don't think Gigi's going to be in the rotation, but Vince, yes.
No. No, I don't think he will be either. He's like,
I don't think GG
14th
Jackson's going to be in
man.
the. Yeah, exactly. I think he's too young and raw, and like he was good for what they needed last year because that's like he's not. He's kind of like Cam Whitmore, where like you can't just throw him onto a winning team. Like he's going to take some time if he even gets there to kind of figure out a role like that. But like you said, that they're 12, 13 deep with NBA players.
Yeah, like I mean, I the obvious somebody. I just want to comment on the thing. They have to trade Marcus Smart. Like he's been like their worst player, and he's like a big salary. Like they have to. Like
I think they probably will. I mean, I think that him not really fitting with what they need on this team, and then adding in the fact that, like you said, he makes a decent amount of money. They still have picks. Yeah. I would like to see them be aggressive and pushing the chips. I know that the last time they did that, they ended up not making a great move when they traded for Smart, but they also had their disaster year last year. They're so good at making moves in the margins that I think that they can probably make up for that, but it's still like you need to figure out who is a playoff player and who isn't, because I don't know which one of these guys are going to be able to be played off the court in the playoffs. I think you should have as many guys as possible to kind of alleviate some of those fears if you get there and it proves to be there are certain matchups where you can't play Santi or you can't play whoever in the playoffs. But all right.
Problem is they just don't have the salary.
I think you have one more.
I know. I was trying to figure out a way if like you could get Marcus Smart and John Konchar's salary for Drew, but guess not. So.
Unbelievable. You're ridiculous.
Come home, Marcus. Come home now. SH didn't like that one. I had some honorable mentions. I'm going to move all my other ones around. One of my honorable mentions, very funny. Ochai Agbaji, who I did not think was an NBA player.
Is he shooting like 65% from two this year?
Yeah, he's been kind of like quietly really good for the Raptors.
I don't understand how the Raptors have all of these guys and then they're just total dog shit. I know they've had bad injuries this year, to be fair, but like everyone goes there and like their offensive stats inflate, but then the team is still really bad.
Yeah. So that's just an honorable mention I wanted to bring out here. We touched on him before. I just want to reiterate, because I feel like we did hit this pretty hard, but I want to hit it one more time. Let's go out to Portland and talk about a point guard out there. No, not Scoot Henderson. Let's talk about Delano Banton. Is still fucking him. Was on the Celtics. I actually really enjoyed when Ben was on the Celtics. I actually did really enjoy like his like deep bench stints. But I'm still like, he should not be like an NBA player, and just he is, and he's like getting minutes. He's played every game, I think, so far this season for the fucking the Blazers, and it's tough for me to like argue with it. Like, to be totally honest, shooting 38% from three.
His per 36 stats are pretty hilarious, which is really funny. I know he only plays 17 minutes a game, but Delano Banton is averaging 21 points, 5.5 assists, 5 rebounds. He's shooting 43, 38, 67 from the line, unfortunately, splits, but he does get to the line 5 times per 36. That's
pretty crazy. I would say he's been like a real guy, which is very 25% assist rate, by the way. Like on 27%
down a little
usage.
bit, but yeah,
like
he was really tearing it up like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but I'm still. I think Delano. I think he's going to stay in the league. Like, you know what I'm saying? Calculator rats in front offices have noticed this right now. He's going to get like 1 to 2. He was in danger of washing out of the league this year. I think he's going to get like 2 to 3 more years in the NBA. So I'm shout out to
your guy.
That's my guy.
Oh, okay. That's who you took. You never made it clear whether you were actually taking him or not.
No, I was thinking back of thinking back and forth for some of the ones, but yeah.
All right. So to recap, number 1, Cade. Number 2, Karl-Anthony Towns. Number 3, Tyler Herro. Number 4, Jimmy Butler. Number 5, Dennis Schroder. Number 6, Brandon Miller. Number 7, DeAndre Hunter. Number 8, Darius Garland. Number 9, Jaren Jackson Jr. Number 10, Delano Banton. And like I said, plenty of plenty of honorable mentions throughout as well that we touched on. The Peyton Pritchards and Matas Buzelis's of the world, if you will. But I'll be back Tuesday and Wednesday. Hopefully I'm feeling a little better. I didn't feel great today. But Tuesday and Wednesday I'll be streaming for the Cup games. So if you respect the Cup, if you want to show love for the Cup, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're streaming for both Cup nights. We I don't know when. Do we know when the semifinals are?
No, I don't think so yet. I haven't heard about it.
I was gonna say, I would imagine that they're probably this weekend, so I might not be able to stream. But I'll be trying to stream for as many cups as possible as we're coming up here for the Cup games. We have to respect the Cup as is YKB tradition. So join me for those games on playback. Anything else you want to say that won't get us canceled, Sam, before we get out of here?
Yeah, just real quick. Marcus Smart and John Conchar for Drew Holiday does work and keeps the Grizzlies under the tax. So,
all right, take care, guys. Actually, you should do that trade. I take it back. You should do that trade because then not everyone is a 40% catch and shoot guy on the Celtics, and it's the only way you could beat them. Take care.
Peace.